So welcome you all for this class. This class we are going to discuss about speciation, gene family and duplications. So these are all the very important events, how the gene families, how they are duplicated. If the gene families are duplicated, what are the genes which have special role on the speciation. So those things we are going to discuss during this class. So let us see when you take any speciation event or any duplication event or any natural events, always you have to look on their different perspective. That is, you have to look on ecosystem as a whole. Always the people say that ecosystem as a whole. Whenever you see any speciation event or any duplication events, you have to look on how these barrier of islands present in a species. For example, this picture shows the entire ecosystem in the globe. So when you see that, we are studying entire. When you look on any gene families, any duplication, even when you look on that, we have to look entire fauna, flora, and also the eukaryotes, prokaryotes, and higher order and lower order organisms. When you look at the organisms in the ecosystem, you see this is when the rainfall pattern, atmospheric deposition of rainfall and evaporations. And when you look into the sea and also when you look into the water ecosystem, also you have the freshwater system and also the deep water system. When you look on the freshwater system, we can see that when the rivers are connected and when the rivers reaches the sea level, when they reaches this sea connecting point, you can see a lot of marshy island, mangrove forest, and submerged aquatic vegetations, and also some of the freshwater springs. These are all the things which are very near to the sea level. When the river basins enter the sea level, there are so many variation in the. And similarly, when you look on the other ecosystems like grassland ecosystem or the forest ecosystem or normal land system, and there is a species. When the species which are present in the freshwater ecosystem and also when it is the deep sea ecosystem, there is a big difference. When you look, especially when you look on fish diversity, with a fish which is present in the freshwater is have different adaptive mechanism than the deep water fishes. And also similarly, when you look on amphibians, and they live in both the water system and also the mainland, there are a lot of adaptive mechanism. These are all the things, even though the species are same, when they are located in different ecosystem, they are nature of events which make them to adapt to different ecosystems. So what it tells us, it has a lot of impact on your genes and also their functions and their changes in their nature in which they are changing. So these we call it as, when you look at a total biodiversity web, it's all interconnected. Biodiversity web is entirely interconnected. It's all recycle in the water ecosystem and the air ecosystem. So when the diverse species selection is the hypothesis that when the two species live in different environment that select for different allele for a particular locus. The species which are located in, when a species you separate into two subpopulations, one populations in different environment, another population in different environment, but they select for different allele for a particular locus, because for their adaptive mechanism, they select a particular allele or particular locus for their environment. This is why when you see any changes in their microsatellite region or the long in dispersed repeat lines or signs or any family, many genes which we are looking when you construct the phylogeny, you have to look into how the ecosystem select the particular gene family and how this is having changes occur in each subpopulation. We have to be careful. So when you start your phylogeny analysis, people have to take into account on the genetic diversity and their survival of the species. We already discussed about how the genetic diversity is there, but this kind of diversity, how helpful for the diversity of species, also another question. For example, genetic diversity plays a huge role in survival and adaptability of particular species. I already told you, when the species are in a center of origin, where it originated, there you can see a lot of diversity in that. That help you to survive the particular species in a local environment, which have a lot of adaptive mechanism and also adaptive survivability. When a species environment changes, the slight gene variations are necessary to adapt and survive. If a particular species surviving for a long period in a particular environment, it have a lot of adaptability mechanism and also survival, and a lot of variability also been created. This is because of slight gene variations, lot of gene families, which have changes during the years in a particular locality. So whenever you look on any gene family, you have to look on how the survival mechanism is. Another thing, the species that have large degree of genetic diversity among its individuals will have more variations, from which they choose more fitting allele. So the species, when it is have a large genetic diversity in a particular locations, that which is the most fitted allele, more favorable allele, that will have more long period of survival. Some other will be lost during the process of survival mechanisms. So species that have very little genetic variations or greater risk. That's why monoculture, always the people say that it have bigger risk when you go for when natural calamities happens, when high temperature. Nowadays the global warming, high temperature. So certain kind of changes in the climatic conditions occurs or the ecosystem occurs, then there is a great risk of, if species doesn't have variability, if the species have the monoculture, then there is a high risk. So that's why I put a right hand side how they are diverse, this plant species, and also how they are diverse in the human beings. Okay, when you look on the diversity, when you look on the Indian biodiversity, so it's have very richest resource India have. India is the one of the mega diversity countries in the world. It have 2.4% of the land area, accounting 7 to 8% of species diversity in the world. Even though we have 2.4% of the world land area, but we have more than around 7 to 8% of the species which is available in the world. Not only particular plants or animals or reptiles or birds, etc. We have variety of. So this includes 91,000 species in the animals, 45,500 species of plants, and have documented in the 10 biogeographic regions. So these all regions which include biogeographical regions, which constitute both animals, plants, all together. So when you look on individual things, why I'm insisting this one, whenever you had a sequences, when you get construct the phylogeny, you should look on the, when the sequences are derived from particular locations, unless these, when you construct the phylogeny, unless you have the diverse species, then you cannot put out group or in group easily. So of this diversity, when you see that birds 4.5%, mammal 12%, and amphibians 58.8%, plants 33%, reptiles 48.8%. These are all the individual contribution for the total biodiversity. So this being found nowhere in the world. So if you take any plant species or any animal species, any reptiles or amphibians, whatever you take, India have very good biodiversity. Okay, so when you look at this, and also this biodiversity also been conserved in the gene banks I already discussed. These are short-term storage, long-term storage, and medium-term storage. That they collect and preserve. Some they distribute. If it is a short-term storage, they storage it and distribute the people need it. Or long-term storage, they keep it in a very long period of storage. So I already told you, wheat we have kernel, we have big collection, rice we have Cuttack, and potatoes Simla, cotton we have Nagpur, pulses in Kanpur, oilseed, sorghum, Hyderabad, and like that every places we have national centers where they keep the part of the active collections or short-term storage. but the long-term storage are the permanent collections which are maintained in the National Gene Bank in NPPGR New Delhi. Okay, so not only the plant, I already told you, plant will be maintained in different collections are maintained in different places, but also in the livestock also. If you look on the livestock, so one of the key things which you have to look, livestock genetic resources in India and the world, you can see, if you see the cattle, it is India is the big populations and 1.4 billion populations. Number of breeds are 1019 breeds available. You can't imagine this much of breeds in the world. So you can see very diverse breed in the picture on the left hand side. You can see Sindhi, Sahiwal, and also Ongul, and we have Kongayam and also Gir, and we have the Concord and also Bargur. There are many kind of cattle breeds which are entirely different kind of structure which can adapt to different kind of location in India. But you see that Indian climatic condition is so variable when you compare to when you come to Tamil Nadu or when you go to the Delhi or in Rajasthan, you can see every places you have very diverse climate, very different kind of cross species for their fodder. So each have each diversity. So that's why the cattle diversity in India is very huge. And also it number of breeds, which is 37 breeds available in India itself, and it ranks around to the 13% of contribution. Like that, you have buffalo, we have goat, pig, sheep, horses, camel, donkey. You can see number of breeds which is available in India and also how they rank in the world. So these are all the different kind of breeds which still we have, because these breeds will contribute nature of variability, and it always it's have the possibilities of improvement with our local cattle. Similarly, I told you the millet is one of the central origin in India. That is already documented in Indus Valley Civilization. We have a lot of millets like all the millets, like small millets like little millet, the samai, thinai, pani varagu. So many millets, varagu. So many millets which are being cultivated in India, been stored for a long period in the germ plasm. Now it's been revitalized. Nowadays, the people try to use the traditional millets for a more cultivation areas coming, and this also give more wide diversity, which give the food basket, and also the changing climatic conditions. These millets have a major role on that. So when you look on that, you have to look on the diversity. Okay, so I told you that there is a variation for the speciation and also variations which been present in the every corner, like cattle population, where the plant populations, and also not only the animal systems, not only the plant system, pathogens which are depend on the plants for their survival. For example, one typical example we can say the wheat rust. The wheat rust is the one of the continuously evolving pathogen. It always keep changing every time, because it's frequently it is having alternate host. It is living on the other grasses. Whenever the favorable condition comes, it's again come to the wheat cropping system. So the frequently dependent selection, the hypothesis, the allele become more common, they are more less fit. For example, if in the case of wheat rust breeding people, what they do, LR31 is the one of the gene which is present in the host, which have resistance against multiple pathogens. So there are leaf rust, lot of leaf rust pathogens are available. Every biotypes it is changing, every year it is changing. So when there is a changing pathogenity and the virulence, then similarly you should have the host should have the that means the host should have the resistant gene. If your host have specific resistant gene, then have the so please mute your mic, the audience. Okay. So one example I want to tell you here is whenever the pathogen which is living in the plant ecosystem, and also whenever you when you analyze the sequence, you can see a lot of biotypes are evolving every year, and new biotypes of pathogens coming. If a particular resistant gene is available in the host, in case of wheat, this pathogen cannot able to impact. So it tried to evolve, it tried to mutate, and it tried to overcome the stress and evolve as a new pathotypes. So this often invoke host pathogen interactions where high frequency of defense allele among host means that is more likely that pathogen will spread if it is able to overcome that allele. If most of the wheat varieties are resistant to single gene, then always when the pathogen able to break that mechanism, it can able to mutate and it can able to invade the host, then it will be a total disaster. If one single gene, it totally destroy the entire crop in the world. So that's why they put diverse resistant genes in the host in order to overcome any changes in the pathogen. So this always a mechanism which always fight each other. The host want to defend, the wheat want to defend most of the pathogen in order to survive. Similarly, the pathogen always want to overlap the host gene, resistant gene, and they have to break that and it can able to invade the host. So this is always not only the plants, even it can be a human system also. Whenever the SARS, the COVID-19 or SARS virus, this kind of viruses which always mutate it and try to invade the host. If it is successful, then it will be a big disaster. So this is always the host and pathogen which have major, either it's a bacteria or it's a virus. In this case, in this bacterial system, it is a fungal system where it is working. So host fungal system, host bacterial system, host viral system. All the cases, always the host is trying to defend, and also the either bacteria or fungus or virus always try to defeat the host and infect the host. That's why the most of the host pathogen interactions or host viral interaction, all kind of host pathogen interactions always have the, it's a changing, always have the fight each other, and always the game sometimes favorable to the host, it will not maintain the resistance for a long period of time, sometimes favorable for the invading pathogens, it can able to overlook and it can survive for a summer period of time. Okay, so this is one typical example. We can say that late blight of potato. This causes the Irish famine in case of UK because the potato varieties which are cultivated, those namely lumber, they planted namely lumber variety potato, which are susceptible to the Phytophthora infestans. Because of that, it a bigger problem. So that totally the potato crops are devastated because of these particular Phytophthora infections. Ireland, that is we call it as Irish famine. So there is another in the US, the sugarcane industry, they saved because in case of sugarcane, there is a Asian wild species which can be introduced into the US. By that they able to save the sugarcane cultivation, even though they affected by some kind of diseases. So this is sometimes if you have diverse gene pool we introduce and make the gene some more wider adaptable, then the chance of attacking single pathogen totally destroying the crop will not be a problem. But that case occurred during 1840s where Irish population depend on single potato variety. And once it Phytophthora infest on the potato died to infect the host, then totally devastated. So totally wiped out. That is a problem. So that's why the people always have the mechanism to keep both the host and also the pathogen in a balanced way. Then why this is this kind of variations which you have to study, why this kind of changes we have to be very careful on them. So the entire course we are going to study about how to construct phylogeny, how to derive the relationship. When you derive a relationship, you should know why there is a relationship between the species, why there is a variation. Unless you know that basic information, you cannot able to interpret it. So the genotype partially determines the genotype of any individuals, any sequence when you analyze, any protein sequence of an individual, if you analyze it, or genome sequences, the genotype particularly determines the organism physical form and functions. So gene regulate the size, shape, physiological process, behavioral traits, reproductive characters, tolerance to environmental extreme, dispersal and colonization ability, and the timing and seasonal annual cycle, and also diseases, many other types. These are all will decide by the genotype of a particular organism. The physical forms, the structural genomes or the functional genome will decide on these kind of things. So the genetic diversity helps organism to cope up with the environmental variability. This, whenever the environmental changes, it tries to impact on the genome's structure. So the tolerance of environmental variance important in restoration of works include tolerant to freezing, tolerant to drought, and high and low light availability, salinity, heavy metal, soil, so many environmental factors which always keep affecting the plants. So that will, what will the plant has to cope up with these kind of changes. Then this will help, this will make some kind of imprints on the genome. That's why when you look on the barley genome, which is a high amount of repeat regions in the genome, because it is exposed to very extreme climate like very high freezing, minus 30 degree, 40 degree. It's a high temperature. So because of that, it have developed a repeat regions are more accumulated. It can able to accommodate this kind of very harsh environment. So it become more repeats are accumulated in the organism in case of barley compared to other cereals. So these are all the things which important when you look on any organisms. So when you look on the agriculture biodiversity, so there is a, not only it should look on, mostly the people look on the crop diversity and its wild relative or land races, but also again, it is again other species which depend on the crops, insect, pathogens. So many things which always depend on the plants for their survival. Animals, so many things which are, there are also many other organisms like soil fauna, not only the upper ground part, the plant part, which insects or diseases, but also the weeds, soil flora, fauna, predators, native plants. Those are all things which always which include, and when you look on a overall scale. However, the most attention in the field is given to the crop varieties and wild relatives because they want to continuously improve and feed the population. They more concentrated on that. But whenever these other flora, fauna, weeds, pest and diseases which affect the host, then again they go study the variations which is what are the changes occur in those related species also. They study. So that's why they classified these crop varieties as a modern varieties and traditional varieties and land races. So this, when you study on the diversity, you have lot of issues, not only the plant which you are studying, but also the related organisms, how it is how it is having interaction. For example, modulation in the legume crops. People want to study. Some legume crops are more, legume varieties are more high yielders. So people, when you study the legume nodules, some have good nodulation ability, some of the varieties which can able to get the atmospheric nitrogen very quickly and get transport and synthesize. So many things which sometimes the phosphorus uptake, iron uptake, these all depend on how these soil microflora which is in the root zone. So one typical example I want to tell you about how these genetic variations which been created in the genomes when there is a changes in the plant architecture. For example, one typical example people always tell about the in case of wheat, people usually study the wheat. The one typical example how the polyploidization which created so much variation in the wheat. Originally, the wheat is a cultivated wheat is a Ericon wheat. One is available AA genome. I told you that wheat is a hexaploid genome which contributed the A genome, B genome, and D genome. Each genome have 2 and 14 number. So this contributed by 3 species. One species, the Ericon wheat, have A genome, and it is derived from the wild diploid Triticum monococcum. So Triticum monococcum is a wild type. It's from that the Ericon wheat comes. There is a diploid. There is another diploid wheat which is Triticum schwarzschild, and this is B genome. These 2 wild types, when you hybridize these 2 wild natural hybridization, then you got A and B genome. So this been after the doubling natural events, 2 diploid species join. After doubling, it's have that one tetraploid species originated, that is Triticum turgidum, AB genome. It is tetraploid species. So this is having 2n14 plus 28 chromosome. Then this species again domesticated and become cultivated for 10,000 years back. This have we call it as another MRB tetraploid type AB genome. Then this AB genome again crossed with a D genome, a wild diploid wheat, Triticum C. Then it resulted in the ABD, that is Triticum ST. That is AABBDG genome, hexaploid wheat now. So during the process, there are duplication happens. There are two genome joint duplication, then again made into another cross, another genome. Then it became a hexaploid wheat, 2n42 chromosome. Okay. So this is when you cross with this tetraploid wheat with another diploid, then you give a triploid, then it become double, then it become hexaploid wheat. So what it shows, any genetic variations created, when you look on the genome level, any one diploid genome, when you take the sequence, even though this diploid genome and this diploid genome, B genome, have more of similar homology, and they are united and become, they are crossed and become double, then you have the tetraploid genome. So the genetic variation is important, but because your genetic material for natural selection, it creates the polyploidy. This is the polyploidization we can call. It's an example for chromosomal doubling. The polyploidy is the condition where organisms have 3 or more set of genetic variation. In this case, 3n becomes 6n. So this is the offspring now have a chance to receive more of variation and more of accumulation, more of survival, etc. So genetic, whenever any speciation, even when you study, you have to see that whether it's a mutation happened in the gene or duplication in the genome region or polyploidization occurs in the genome. There are many things you have to look on that, how when you compare the trees of different species. Then I have another 2 examples today. I want to discuss not only the polyploidization, how the variation been accumulated, but also there are other genes. Whenever you look on the genome regions, whenever you look on the genes, when you consider the phylogeny, you have to look on the individual lines. For example, transposons. So there are many genome sequences available, like transposon. Separately, they characterize the sequences available. You have separately sign, line. There are many elements, different gene families which you are studying. When you download the sequence, you know a lot of gene families available. One such you can take a few examples we are going to discuss today. One is on transposons. So transposon, we have separate databases. How the transposons are more active in case of males. When you study in the plant system, there are many transposons being reported in many species. We take simple example of transposons in case of males. The transposon are known as jumping genes, DNA sequence, you already know. These move from one location to another locations. So these transposons move one location to another locations. They are semi-parasitic DNA sequence which can replicate and spread throughout the host genome. It's always go around the host genomes. Whenever it move around the host genome, it's always have the lot of functional changes or structural changes may occur. This can be harnessed in the genetic tool for analysis of gene and protein functions. So if you characterize some of the characterized transposons, it's used for study the gene functions, gene analysis, many things that people know. Because if you know the movement, if you track this transposon movement within the plant, the genome, then you can easily able to analyze the functions of the genes, if it is deletion or insertion, what will happen. So the transposons are well documented not only in the males, it's in Drosophila and also Rhabdopsis in the plant system, mice and many things waste, and also E. coli also transposons being documented. Transposon data is also available. The transposons functions as vector to help remove or integrate the genetic sequences. This is possible. So this is a typical one of the ACDS system in case of maize. It's one of the typical example how the transposon works. So these elements modify gene structure to alter the gene expression. Though through their mobilization, transposon reshuffle the sequence, promote ectotopic rearrangements, and create novel genes. Everything can be done by transposon. Studying the transposon itself is a very big science. big area we can discuss whole day. Okay, very simply I will explain the how transposons work. For example, ACDS elements, these are the transposon elements which is present in maize genome. So this is the activator element AC, dissociator element we call DS, AC and DS. And AC and DS are present in the, if you characterized AC, DS are available. This is the maize kernel, which have the kernel have pigmentations. So kernel have always have pigmented nature. This is the pigment, purple pigment. So when there is a purple pigment, you have the, when there is no AC, so for example, this is a AC element and DC elements are there. This is a wild type. This is the purple pigment type. This is white kernel type is, one is normal pigmented kernel, this pigmented one, and that means the mutant which have non-pigmented types. Okay, so when there is a non-pigmented type, ACDS elements will not have any influence on this. It's not inserted. When activator able to dissociate this element, DS element, when it is mobilized inside this genes C, then the color become normal. Instead of you are getting the color, if you are getting the normal pigmentation, then it become plain. So there is no pigment. So this way, when AC can able to move the dissociated element, AC can move the DS element into the gene, that this color become null. So it become normal alleuron line. Then there is a, during developmental stages of the grain, if AC dissociate the DS element move to the gene, then sometimes during the developmental process, wherever this DS element move and sit on the gene, C plus gene, then you will get lot of mosaicism in the kernel alleuron type. So that's why when you study the ACDS element in case of maize, this is a purely purple grain gene, which is a normal gene expressing purple pigment in the entire maize kernel. And this DS, AC move the DS into the gene, then gene become disturbed and it become mutant. So when AC try to move the DS element into the gene, and the gene being disturbed, it become mutant and this become colorless kernel. So normal kernel, when C gene is present in pigmented product, when the DS activates a DS transposon, AC activate the DS transposon, DS jump into the gene and disturb the gene function and become mutant, become colorless kernel. Then this is the one system normally operate. When it is during developmental stages, each tissues there is a variations. So when it is moved to the when activator element activates the DS element to move to the gene during developmental stage, there are a lot of mosaic pattern will appear. So what it shows, the maize transposition function, what it shows, these ACDS elements, whenever DS, when AC elements will activate DS and move to any particular gene, then the gene function will be disturbed, either fully disturbed or partially. During the developmental stages, it variety of changes may happen. So what it tells, this have very important role whenever you move the ACDS system in any gene, and you can see the loss of functions or gain of functions you can study. So this is one of the key mechanism people working on transposons. So the transposable elements usually have lot of, it's a very natural tool for analysis of gene protein functions. It have very useful tool, and also this have helpful for the function as a vector to remove or integrate the gene sequence, and also it elements modify gene structure, alter the gene expressions through their mobilization, transposon, reshuffle the sequence, promote ectotopic rearrangements, and create novel genes. So these are the things which always, when you look on the transposons, when you work on them. So another one more thing which we are going to discuss is repeat sequences. So maybe we'll discuss in the next presentations. There are repeats like mini satellite, micro satellites, short interspersed nuclear element, long interspersed nuclear element, line, signs, micro satellite, mini satellite. This also have a specific role in their duplication, rearrangements, or the movements or the characteristics of the genes. So far today we discussed about how the speciations and the changes in the structure of the transposons and how it have big effect on the gene functions and also the role in their differentiation of the species, etc. So with that, I will stop this presentation.